Hello there, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another edition of the MrWarrenHayes Show. I, of course, am MrWarrenHayes, and welcome. I already welcomed you, but I'm going to welcome you once again because being welcomed twice is so nice. I'm very, very appreciative that you are joining me here once again for another edition of the MrWarrenHayes Show, April 24th, 2022. And we're going to be talking about professional wrestling, of course, right here on youtube.com/MrWarrenHayes. Thank you very much for being here. Go right ahead. Like the video. Are you new here? Would you like to subscribe? I like to talk about wrestling quite a bit. There's a lot of fun things that we do here. Subscribe. Don't miss out on a video. Don't miss out on a live stream. Subscribe. We have, like I said, we have a good time here. Are you listening to this on your favorite podcast app? Thank you. You can also subscribe either on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. And you can show some love there as well by leaving a review, a rating. That kind of stuff rules. And I super appreciate it. I really do. It's the little things when you do these kind of podcasts, you do this type of content. It's little things like that that make it all so special. And I appreciate in advance any type of love and show of support that you can give, such as becoming a member of the MrWarrenHayes Show channel over on youtube.com/MrWarrenHayes. Of course, what does that give you? It gives you access to our members only streams where we talk about different topics week in and week out. We just sit around, we chit chat. Lots of interaction with everyone in the YouTube chat, the Discord chat, and I also take Discord calls. What more do you want? Well, what more do you want? How about more MrWarrenHayes content, such as my independent wrestling podcast that I do every Tuesday night? It's called Hot Shakes and Hand Dogs. It's co-hosted by Sean Taggart, where we review the weekend in independent wrestling. That's super fun. So you can check that out. You can also check out all the stuff that we do over at Bell to Bells. BellToBells.com, BellToBelles.com, or on youtube.com/BellToBells, where, by the way, I just recently conducted an interview with Maria Kanellis talking about her brand new project, Women's Wrestling Army. You want to check that out. You want to check that interview out so that you can learn more about that project and the great, super interesting ways that they're going about supporting women's wrestling. It's a good listen. Go check that out. That's on our YouTube channel. We also have a Discord. I don't know what that voice was, but I also have a Discord. The link is in the description. If you like to chat pro wrestling with other pro wrestling fans and not feel overwhelmed and, invaded by outside factors, or you just want a nice little space where you can just chat with like-minded people, come on over. Discord is right there. The link is in the description, and it's a good time. You know what else is a good time? This podcast that I've got set up for you here. We're going to be talking about the AEW New Japan show, of course. We're going to be talking about the business aspect of it. I have as a special guest, Brandon Thurston is going to be joining me from WrestleNomics. We're going to be talking about the business aspects of AEW and what they've been up to, and are they growing? Are they shrinking? Because there's a lot of people who think that AEW is not doing well. There's a lot of people who think that AEW is doing very well. Well, Brandon, he's got numbers on his side. He's got hard facts. That's what we're going to talk about. So that was a really interesting talk. So if only for that, you guys should stick around. We're also going to be talking about AEW Dynamite, AEW Rampage, Battle of the Belts. Some quick thoughts on Windy City Riot as well. It's a packed show. I think I've said enough. We should get right to it. But before we go any further, it's time for me to continue my resolution of saying something nice about Goldberg. So here we go with the segment that I like to call 52 nice things to say about Bill Goldberg.
Warren Hayes has 52 nice things to say about Goldberg.
Well, Bill Goldberg would have gone right through the forbidden door, head first.
Warren Hayes has 52 nice things to say about Goldberg.
There we go, folks. Are we ready for fun? Yeah. Are we ready for excitement? Yeah. Then let's get to it with the weekly wrestling inspection. I do not think there is any other way to start the podcast this week than by talking about, first and foremost, right out the gate, straight out the park, hit the ball into the street so that someone will run after it and hopefully not get hit by a car. AEW, New Japan, Pro Wrestling are putting on a joint pay-per-view, the Forbidden Door pay-per-view. This was announced this week on AEW Dynamite. It's going to be happening on June 26th at the United Center in Chicago, Illinois. Now, we don't know a lot about the show at this point, what it's going to look like, what the setup is, so on and so forth. But there, how things are going to go. Clearly, this is a joint pay-per-view, right? Because it's really AEW, New Japan, Forbidden Door, so on and so forth. There's this one line from the press. I'm not going to read the entire press release. And you can find it out there on your favorite news website or on Twitter. Everyone's carrying it, right? The show will feature, and I quote from the press release, marquee matchups between members of AEW and New Japan's world-class rosters. So that clearly means right there that if I'm reading this correctly, I think this means that we're getting cross-branded matches, right? But I also don't think that we're exclusively getting cross promotion matches because it's not, it hasn't been billed as a versus match, right? It hasn't been set up like the Noah versus New Japan. It's not one promotion pitted against the other. It's a joint effort, right? So I'm convinced that we're going to see that there will not be only crossover matches, is what I'm trying to say. Which is exciting, whichever way you look at it. That's the thing, is that this is a big time, huge announcement that I'm super stoked for. And it's weird because, ever since the rumor started, because, there were rumblings about this. I think the Super J cast that broke the date, and they were heavily hinting at that happening, right? I think that they since that time, I know since that time there have been some extremely weird, not weird, but some perceptions out of the blue regarding AEW's decisions as a company and its growth and so on and so forth. And I'm like, there's a lot of things, a lot of people making some very, very strange comments in regards to AEW not growing as a company, not doing things to attract new viewers. And I'm like, this is the wildest shit. We are getting a fantastic dream card being delivered to us on our laps from two of the biggest wrestling companies in the world. And we're sitting around going, well, business-wise, how do we attract, different... And I'm like, holy shit. I don't understand what people... What goes through some people's minds sometimes. Pete Davies and Safet Chekovic. Nice to see you. Or Sajo BXNYC. Let's call you that. Nice to see you and welcome to you both. So, as I was thinking about this and I was putting the podcast together, I reached out to Brandon Thurston of WrestleNomics and straight out asked him, I said, would you like to join me to chat about the New Japan show? And it's the New Japan AEW show, specifically focused a little bit on, on all these takes about New Japan's New Japan's perceived lack of growth and so on and so forth. And he said yes. So a little earlier today, he jumped in and we connected. We chatted with each other, and we have and I have Brandon right here, of course, from WrestleNomics, which I've talked about multiple times here over at WrestleNomics.com. If you want to learn anything about how, the wrestling business is going, growing, evolving, this is a must follow. You absolutely have to get Brandon on your radar. It goes without question. And I was lucky, very lucky, that he accepted to join me today. So here's the chat between myself and Brandon Thurston of WrestleNomics. So ladies and gentlemen, I am joined right now by WrestleNomics' own Brandon Thurston, who has popped in today. Nice to see you, Brandon. Thank you for joining us today on the podcast.
Yes, thanks for it. I'm really glad to be here and talk with you voice to voice.
Yeah, because we do trade a lot of text messaging, and I think it's a very auspicious occasion, right? I think as far as this being our first time actually speaking to each other, we couldn't have picked a better moment, right? Big announcement that happened this week on AEW Dynamite. The rumored AEW New Japan show is indeed happening. They're calling it Forbidden Door. It's happening at the United Center on June 26th. And you know what, Brandon? It is a perfectly logical next step in the strategy of non-growth of AEW, right? Just doing things exclusively to please their fans, not going after, casuals, so on and so forth.
I actually... We had to arrange this interview at a certain time because I just got home from my work as a high-rise construction worker with my fellow Johnny Lunch Pails, and we were the discussion around the lunch pail was just how uninterested everyone is in this announcement, in this news that AEW is going to be working with New Japan in the Forbidden Door pay-per-view coming up in June. What we all really agree, as we smoked our cigarettes, we all really agreed that we would prefer it if maybe AEW had like a tall guys tournament or something like that.
Sure.
So, just something like that just stops catering to wrestling fans who like wrestling. That really pisses us off. We would like things to be dumb, and we would have liked the Attitude Era back, quite frankly.
Sure, yeah. All that kind of stuff.
Sick of all this new talent that keeps coming in. It's just a bunch of WWE guys anyway.
Yeah, so exactly. It's all a bunch of WWE guys, and all guys that we weren't interested in the first place, right? That's the thing.
No. Only fans who were already interested in AEW would be interested in that.
Absolutely. But all joking aside, it is interesting though that this happened on a week where you tweeted out data regarding AEW's growth, in certain key performance indicators, right? Look, if you were to give us a summary of it, what did your data bring up?
I'm gonna have to look at it. I just had Jason Umperser write an article about it. I just the announcement was coming up. I think it was yesterday, Wednesday.
Yes.
And I think a lot of people expected, including myself, that it was going to be a New Japan announcement, and people were bracing themselves for the response of some people. That was the response following the announcement that they're going to work with New Japan. But basically, and I know a lot of people, well-known people, have said that AEW is not really growing, and in light of the merger between Discovery and Warner Media, they're going to have to go to their new bosses or their new partners and say, explain why AEW isn't growing, and but it is growing year over year in, let's see, total viewership. This is in Q1, so Q1 just ended on March 31st.
Right.
Total viewership is up 29% year over year. The demo is up 28% year over year.
Which is huge.
All their pay-per-views are up year over year so far. That's probably going to end with All Out. But all their pay-per-views are up. In Q1, their YouTube views were up. In Q1, web search worldwide was up. In the United States, it was up. Rampage viewership has on the other hand, Rampage viewership has shown some weakening in the
A little
last
struggle. Yeah,
few
a
months.
little struggle.
We don't have year over year. I guess I could have reached back into 2019, like pre-pandemic ticket sales, and compared that to WrestleTix. Come July, we'll have that year over year comparison. But and you could say, well, the TV ratings, those are still being compared to the time when they weren't going against. Those are being compared when they were going against NXT. They're not going against NXT now. Half of April is overlapping with that post Wednesday Night War era. At the moment, as of the rating that just came out, they're still up year over year for April. So AEW is doing okay, and you can look at NXT on the other hand. And NXT as a brand has really diminished in interest among wrestling fans. You can see that in the ratings, if nothing else. But no, AEW seems to be doing well, growing fans and growing popularity, growing in probably in their revenue. There's more pay-per-view revenue when you sell pay-per-views.
Sure.
In terms of revenue in general, probably the biggest part is that they're in another year of TV rights fees, and those are probably guaranteed to increase over time.
Right.
Are they profitable though?
Well, that's a very
to,
interesting question, right? A former promoter earlier a few days ago came out and guesstimated the price, right, of what an AEW production might seem on a week per week basis. I think he evaluated it just like $450,000 a week, I think was his ballpark. If that's what he's
that's a little low. I think that's a little low.
You think it's a little low per
yeah, I think
that doesn't include talent. Like he wasn't including talent on top of that. It was strictly operational.
Yeah, I would go $500,000, maybe a touch over that. I'm sure it varies from week to week and from venue to venue, but in the range of $500,000, about $500,000.
Yeah,
probably a little more than that. And I think WWE spends maybe almost $1 million, and certainly on a premium live event, probably over $1 million. And AEW on a pay-per-view or some sort of big event, a little bit more than what they usually would. But yeah, over $500,000. I think AEW's losing money, especially considering what Tony Khan said to Forbes about his video game investment of 8 figures. So it's at least a $10 million investment that he's made in apparently the gaming companies that are working with AEW is my assumption there. So he said if not for that, they would be profitable. This is a promoter promoting though. I don't know, but the game is all. This is all. They're probably losing money. They are considering that investment. Losing money, but that's you invest all this money and maybe they get a TV rights upgrade come a year or two from now that's 3 or maybe 4 times higher than what they have now, and then they do become quite profitable.
Right, because it's not unusual to see companies to do that, right? Go in, I think the term loss leader isn't necessarily the right term here, but operate as a loss in a couple of years. Because basically, I think you answered a question that I had was like, do you feel like that AEW is indeed being a little risky in what they're doing, expecting better rights fees when it's time to sit down at the negotiation table?
Do I think they're
being
expecting?
Yeah, that they're making these big costly moves, operating at a loss.
Yeah.
Expecting down the line to have a bigger rights deal that might compensate.
No, I think they'll be fine if they get their TV rights fees tripled, and I can make an argument that maybe they should get it more than tripled if you just look at what WWE's getting, and let's assume that WWE gets a favorable upgrade too of like 1.5 times what they're getting. If you compare the viewership, yes, WWE's viewership is larger, even in the demo. Yes, Raw and SmackDown are outpacing Dynamite, but not to the degree that there's a difference in price there, right? Sure. I have a chart somewhere. It's they're producing something like 19% of the total viewership, the total watch time between WWE and AEW. They're producing something like a quarter of the demo viewership between WWE and AEW, but they're getting like 9% of the money between WWE and AEW. So you can make an argument, well, they're like 3 times underpaid. And let's assume WWE, their rights deals come up around the same time. Let's assume WWE gets a 1.5 upgrade. So I'm saying 3 times. We'll really multiply that by 1.5 times. And what is that, like 5 times or something like that?
Well, I'll trust your math. I'll tell you. Before I trust any of mine, I'll trust yours.
It's like 4.5, something like that.
Let's round it up. 5. You were right, Brandon.
Yeah, because half of 3 is 1.5. 3 plus 1.5 would be 4.5. Anyway, you can make an argument just on viewership, and that won't be the only factor. Ad rates will be a factor. How much they believe that they can drive viewership to other programming. They're going to have a track record there. And you can understand why, in the first place, AEW would be so perceptibly underpaid, because they were an unknown quantity.
Sure,
even in January 2020, they weren't. They only had a 3-month track record behind them at that point when they got this deal redone from what they had in the first place. So, but they have a lot more of a track record now, and in the grand scheme of wrestling, you can argue that they're here to stay. And if anything, they're getting more comparable in popularity to WWE. Now, WWE, before people come out, WWE's towering over them in a lot of ways.
Sure.
But that margin has gotten smaller over time.
Because this is something that I see quite a bit as well. It's like, you know, how instantly these WWE comparisons happen. It's like, oh, well, you know, people expect AEW to be on the same level as WWE, but do we really, Brandon? Like it, I don't want to sound, you know, but look, I'll just go ahead and say it. Does anyone with a brain really come here and say, I instantly expected AEW to be operating on the same level as WWE? Like, doesn't it seem a little far-fetched?
It's the conversation that I think you're talking about. It's a very tribal conversation between people who, you know, I think kind of what WrestleNomics is doing sometimes is I'm operating the scoreboard, or I'm being the referee, and people always think the referee's doing a bad job when
Sure. That's a great comparison.
not winning. Or when their teams, look, the W team is way ahead, but their lead is diminishing, and then they're still way ahead. But it's getting closer, and if you're rooting for Team WWE here, you know, that might make you feel insecure, like there's a threat out there, you know. But there's, I think I've put it like, you know, and I think a lot of people on the AEW side view this as they're fighting for wrestling to be better, and a lot of people who worked in WWE were wrestlers, were creatively dissatisfied with what they were given,
sure,
or they were allowed to do in WWE, and have come over to AEW and probably feel a lot more satisfied. Not that AEW is perfect. You know, we've seen people come out of AEW not so happy, including in some ways Big Swole, right? And that was a big thing to do. But in a lot of ways, I think for some people, this is kind of and I guess I'm speaking about people on the AEW side who are rooting for AEW to win here and to do better ratings and things like that. This is like a fight for wrestling's soul, for among people who feel like WWE has been terrible for a lot of the last 20 years, especially the last 5 years or so. It's gotten progressively worse, and by God, the people, we love wrestling. I'm exposing myself as maybe having some sympathy to this point of view. We love wrestling. We just wish it was better. And the most visible and the most influential version of wrestling doesn't even want to accept that it's wrestling, doesn't even want to accept that what they're doing is pro wrestling. They want to language it as something else. And it's presented on television in a way that a lot of people, maybe me, find unwatchable. But the medium, the art, wrestling, is great, can be great.
Sure.
But it's being wasted, and a lot of this talent is and has been wasted for, you could argue about how long.
Yeah.
So that's what's behind a lot of, and then obviously there's people who feel totally different on the opposite end, that they love WWE for Lord knows what reason, and they want to see it succeed, and this AEW new kid on the block is just annoying, and it's run by this rich kid who's overspending all this money, and, you know, he's just taking all these WWE people. That's all he's doing. He's not doing anything that's meaningful.
Sure. No, okay. It kind of draws the picture there. I completely get it. Sometimes the tribalism is a little tiresome. Let's put it that way. You know, It really gets to you. But look, coming back to the AEW New Japan situation, right? Are we taking a little, with the growth and all of that? Oh, we're not getting, the business isn't growing. AEW's not getting new fans. Are we taking a little bit too much of a North American centric view in this? Because clearly AEW has its eyes set on New Japan, wants to get, on Japan, right? The country, not necessarily the promotion. But it clearly has a vision to get in there because of, obviously the deal that they have with New Japan, for the show, for adding their shows on New Japan World, plus, getting commentary from Shingo Takagi on top of that. Like, there's a certain level of seriousness in regards to that, the relationship that they're developing with DDT. Like, are we just looking too much into our own little sphere here, in our North American sphere? Because, or is the growth opportunity in Japan plausible for AEW, in your thought?
In Japan itself, I don't see Japan as this big market that AEW can capitalize on. It doesn't hurt. I mean, I guess they can run shows. I mean, WWE's run shows there, certainly. They ran at the Sumo Hall a number of times in recent years. It's not inconceivable that they could do some house shows, some international house shows there that could draw a crowd that makes it worth it. But it's not like but the live events are super secondary in this modern wrestling business. What really makes your money is your TV, is selling your TV to distributors. And W just lost their TV deal in Japan.
That's true.
They're being distributed on DAZN. I think they still have like their 30-minute This Week in WWE is on Samurai TV, which has, I think, a pretty limited subscribership. I don't know a lot about Japan TV other than cable TV isn't in Japan what it is here. And on top of that, there's no TV market in the world that is like the U.S. TV market in terms of being as lucrative as the U.S. TV market is.
That's fair. Okay.
So I don't know. I think it's good for them to maybe secondarily become more of a global brand and have some cooperation with New Japan. But there's all sorts of reasons why it would be good for them in terms of putting on shows that will probably do very well at the gate, pay-per-views that will probably sell pretty well. And just getting more money out of individual fans. I guess one of the issues on the subject that you're getting at is that, are they really attracting any more fans? Because the people who know about AEW, AEW is a bigger deal than New Japan is. So what's working with New Japan going to do? Well, it's going to get more money. Even let's accept that they're not going to make any more new fans because of this, or they're not going to get any customers in that weren't already in. Being a customer of a wrestling company is not a binary either are or you aren't. It's you're either spending a lot of time, a little bit of time, a ton of time, or no time. There's a great spectrum across which one is a wrestling fan in terms of how much time they spend, in terms of how much money they spend. And if you're doing something that feels really compelling, people are going to spend more time and more money on your product. And that's, let's accept that. No new people, no additional reach, but you still are going to extract more time for your partners and more money for yourself out of this.
So are you saying that it's a good idea to cater to your fans, to make your fans happy? Is that what you're saying?
I don't know. I think as a person who's studied wrestling history, no, you shouldn't do that. The fans have always been the problem here. They boo when they should cheer. They cheer when they should boo. They don't sit back and enjoy. They go on the internet and bitch and complain about it. So the fans have always been the issue. That and the wrestlers have been the real challenges that wrestling companies have had to face, unfortunately.
It's the wrestlers and their attitudes and that weird.
Yes. There's
Well,
more
I
truth to
mean,
that.
just some good stuff here, some insightful stuff to just at least to help us wrap our head a bit more around what's going on and interesting it. But I will say, just as we close up, and maybe you can drop a thought here as well. I still think it's interesting, AEW trying to make inroads into Japan, nonetheless. I myself have a better understand, at least a more. I feel a little more grounded observation when it comes to Japan, where it's not necessarily this land of plenty, because there's a lot of factors that maybe we don't quite get, we don't quite understand, and how cable TV is set up, and so on and so forth. It's not the same thing as here. But I think it's still interesting that we're trying to make inroads here, whereas I always felt like this Shangri-La of new wrestling markets has always been India, but no one's cracked the code, right?
Well, it is the number 2 TV market for WWE. They're getting a lot of money from India. That's their number 2 TV market. They're getting $50 million a year. Compare that to like $470 million that they're getting in the U.S. for Raw and SmackDown. But they're getting a lot because that population is so big.
Right.
The median income in India is pretty low relative to the U.S. or Canada, but it's so many people, over 1 billion people, that on that scale they can extract a pretty good amount of money out of it. And AEW has a deal in India with Eurosport, which is owned by Discovery, conspicuously owned by Discovery. And Satnam Singh is.
Oh well, look.
I don't know.
He'll definitely he'll carry the brand. He'll carry the brand.
Samoa Joe might have to work hard, but we'll see.
Look, Joe's dealt with worse. He really has. But listen, Brandon, I really appreciate the time that you took to come and chat about the business aspect of all of this, and also for being the first guest on the Mr. Warren Hayes show to be wearing a collar. So I really appreciate that. Do you want to drop your plugs before we head on out?
Sure. You can follow me and reply to me on Twitter. I won't read it, at Brandon Thurston and at WrestleNomics. Go to WrestleNomics.com. There's a new article today, actually, about the subjects that we're talking about here, the AEW's business. And on Patreon, I have been writing and reporting TV ratings, including the quarter hours lately, for AEW Impact New Japan. That's nearly every day. There's a TV ratings report at patreon.com/WrestleNomics.
And as a proud supporter of WrestleNomics, I will tell you all right now, it is the best money you can put in any Patreon out there. You'll get your money's worth if you're into, the more rational side of wrestling discussion. Let's put it that way. Brandon, thank you so much. I really appreciate it, man. Let's do this again soon.
For sure.
There you have it, folks. Major thanks to Brandon for joining me earlier today to tape this. Fantastic. And I am not kidding. The WrestleNomics Patreon is special. It's fantastic, and you have no idea how much work Brandon puts into this until you become a member of his Patreon. Just absolutely fantastic stuff. And I hope you guys appreciated that, because essentially there's just been so much discourse out there in regards to how this is not necessarily a good thing, how it's a bad thing, how AEW is not growing and they should be doing things to grow, and so on and so forth. And coming from, people who have, who get paid to do this, who are writers on websites who receive money for this. And it's wild to me that we get a super card set up, right? This is legit. Look, this is a super card that we're getting. An event rife with dream matches. An event that's made for wrestling fans. Look, if you are excited about this, you're a wrestling fan, okay? And I'm not trying to say this as anything like a gatekeepy kind of thing. You're not an AEW fan, you're not an New Japan fan, you're not a you're not a a WWE fan, so on and so forth. You're a wrestling fan. If you look at this and you start rubbing your hands and go, oh, this is going to be great. That's what it's for. This is for you. These types of moves are made for wrestling fans. And I can't believe takes and people saying, all that AEW does is do things to make their fans happy. Why would you feel bad that a company is doing something for you as a fan? Brandon sort of touched on it. For the past 2 decades, wrestling fans have been under the subjugation of one way of doing things, of approaching wrestling in one thing, in this one way, storytelling this way, pushes this way. And it's a way that has always strived to chase this mythical, elusive casual fan, right? Because this is how New Japan and AEW is great and all, but how are you going to bring in the casuals, right? Because that's where the whole thing is. But by doing that over the past 20 years, WWE ended up alienating wrestling fans. By trying to capture the attention of everyone, they got rid of the core fan base. And and I'm not making this up. The proof is in the decline in ratings and live event ticket sales. They again, observable facts. This has been going on for years. So this concept of casual fans and reaching out beyond wrestling fans is wild to me. Coming from publications, websites, pundits who should be on the lookout for you as wrestling fans. Anyone who focuses their time and effort on trying to argue about bringing casual fans into wrestling is not looking out for you, the wrestling fan. They are not asking questions or bringing to light good things for wrestling fans. They don't provide commentary that benefit wrestling fans. They're trying to break out and talk to people who are not you. Vince McMahon, and this is well known, Vince McMahon always wanted to do other stuff than wrestling. He wanted to do movies. He wanted to do television. He wanted to do football. But not wrestling. He wanted to go beyond wrestling. He wanted to be bigger than wrestling. Be like, I produce entertainment. I have a production outfit. I do movies. I do TV. Yet wrestling is the only thing Vince McMahon has ever been truly successful at. And he's been doing it by catering to an audience of non-wrestling fans. And this is what about the casuals people attach themselves to. Is that we don't want wrestling fans. As if wrestling fans are poison. As if we're like a crust on the underbelly of fanhoods out there. Now we don't want wrestling fans watching our wrestling product. We want other people. As wrestling fans poo-poo them. We don't have to cater to them. We don't want to cater for them. So if WWE doesn't want wrestling fans. We know this. It wants WWE fans. AEW wants wrestling fans. Why do you think that they set up partnerships with New Japan, or they pull people out of the indies to create like that hardcore, grassroots buzz, like when Willow Nightingale shows up, or Nick Gage, just off the top of my head. These aren't accidents. But I'm telling you guys, as you know, I like to think, anyone who tunes in, hangs around here, I like to think that you guys like to think for yourselves, right? I like to think that you guys are a cut above. I like to think my viewership, audience, so on and so forth, whatever you want to call it, I like to think you guys are special. And I mostly like to think that you guys are wrestling fans, first and foremost. This is the time, with like wherever you congregate to get to aggregate, wherever you aggregate your news, wherever you get your opinions from, so on and so forth. I think this is a moment for you guys to take a step back and look at what's being offered to you. Who is saying what? And are they speaking to you? Are they speaking to you as a wrestling fan? Are they bringing things to you as a wrestling fan? Or are they making you feel stupid for being a wrestling fan? Because all we're talking about is bringing in the casuals. How is this going to grow? Isn't that insulting at some point? That you get a legitimate dream card. And people are telling you, hey, don't be excited about this because it's kind of bad for business, when it's not. 20 years of WWE shoving stuff down your throat year after year. Wrestlers getting no reactions. People getting mad at match results of, you know, never letting the babyface win in its hometown, so on and so forth. Years and years and years of WWE not giving you what you want. Now we get to 2022. People are like, look at, what is this promotion doing? Giving their fans what they want. Why, I never saw anything like this. Do you realize how insane that sounds? Don't be played. And don't trade your fandom in. You're a wrestling fan. And it should be catered to you. It should be tailored to you. You should be able to get excited. It should make you feel good. Let's keep on going. Hey, by the way, thank you very much, everyone, for being here, sticking around, having a good time. If you want to leave a super chat, if you want to leave a super chat, go right ahead. But I wanted to say, if you want to leave a like on the video, that's really cool. AEW Rampage last Friday kicked off with the Blackpool Combat Club in a trios match. Danielson, Moxley, Yuta versus the Gun Club. This is not necessarily the friendliest area for the Gun Club. I just don't get it. I don't. They're fine for, look, what they do is fine. And their job here was to eat dirt, and they ate all the dirt. That's fine. But I'm going to talk about the BCC a little more once we get to Dynamite. The Butcher also defeated Barrett Brown in a squash match. That was, of course, to set up Butcher for his match against Wardlow. We had a No One Heart Foundation women's tournament qualifying match. Ruby Soho defeated Robin Renegade in a long match, which I thought Ruby did what she could with Robin Renegade. I'm not a big fan of the Renegade twins as it stands just yet, but I can see I saw improvements in this match, and even did the twin magic thing as well, which if I were a twin in pro wrestling, I do the gimmick. I do it absolutely. Absolutely do it. So, the Renegade twins show potential. I see it. I just don't understand why they're in these high positions just yet, but we'll get there. I'm completely open to enjoying their work as they continue to grow, because this is always the thing, right? This is always the dichotomy when I end up talking about this kind of stuff, where I'm like, I'll tell you guys on one hand, ex-wrestler I feel isn't ready for this position, right? Or isn't ready to be on TV, or is it? But then on the other hand, just right on the flip side, I'll tell you, maybe even in the same breath, as I'm kind of doing right now, if they're never put on TV and they never wrestle top talent, they'll never improve, right? And this is something I firmly believe. This is something that's absolutely true. If you don't get the on-the-job training, you're never going to improve. So, I get it, but I also don't. And the AEW World Title Texas Deathmatch. Champion Adam Page successfully retained his title against Adam Cole. I would say that this match underdelivered. I think that's a fair assessment. I think it underdelivered. I believe it is Adam Page's least interesting title defense to this day. And I say that very lovingly. And I'm not shitting it. I'm definitely not going to sit here and say this is the, officially the decline of Adam Page has begun here. This is no, this is not what I'm saying. But it felt off. I think it was well worked. It didn't feel like a big time match, like they were trying to put it to make it happen. But look at what happened last week. I popped the vein talking about this last week on the podcast. They didn't promote the match at all on Dynamite. How much of a big match feel is it if it doesn't get the big rub, in regards to, well, this match should happen. I still maintain, instead of dragging out, instead of finishing Dynamite the way they did, should have finished with Page in the ring, calling out Cole, just having a good old-fashioned tense stare down or whatever, or pull-apart brawl. There was nothing on the card. So I kind of felt like this was the energy that was carried into it. Or is it just me? I mean, it could be just me. But I didn't think this was a stellar performance. I thought this was fine. It was good. Well wrestled, good effort put in by all, but just something was not clicking. And look, in all the Adam Page discourse that has been going on practically since he won the title, he needs big time matches. He needs this aura to continue to build around him. So I thought, it was a fine episode of Rampage. Look, see, that's the thing, is that Rampage is never a terrible show to watch. It's just an hour. You're in and out. Literally. Not literally, but close to. So it was fine. Now we have Battle of the Belts 2 that happened the next night. That was aired on the Saturday. It was recorded after Rampage. But yeah, you know what I get. I will say that as it stands right now, AEW Battle of the Belts, I think AEW Battle of the Belts is a show that suffers due to the flagship show being AEW Dynamite, due to Dynamite being so good week after week. So that when you get to Battle of the Belts and it feels a little, it doesn't have as much glitz or glam or these, you're not getting yourself an MJF versus Punk match, or you're not getting a Penta, a Phoenix versus Omega match, or that kind of stuff like that. It kind of feels a little of a letdown. I think it was the case with Battle of the Belts 1. And I think history repeats itself with Battle of the Belts 2. Again, not a bad wrestling show, but it's not like anyone who told me I'm not going to watch this live, I'm going to watch, it's fine. Dynamite has this element of I have to watch it. Like, it's going to suck if I don't watch it live. And that happened to me last week. On Wednesday, on Dynamite, I had, when Dynamite was airing, I had a function. I had a work function. I had to catch up the next day. It kind of stunk. I'm missing, and it was a good Dynamite on top of that. It was very fast paced. It was, as if they had made it strictly for me, and I didn't even bother to tune in. Minimal nonsense matches all across the card. I really enjoyed it. So when you get to Dynamite here, to Battle of the Belts here, we go, okay, well, it's a fine show, but it's lacking pizzazz, and it's weird because you're getting it's nothing but title defenses. It's 3 title defenses on a show, right? Look, AEW TNT title was on the line, and Sammy Guevara successfully defeaed champion Scorpio Sky to become the 3-time TNT title champion. TNT champion. You're not a champion of a title. It's not a belt holds up pants. And there you go. In a match that happened, I don't think it was anything special. I think it was fine. Again, it's not a bad match. It's like these days when I see, like, it takes a lot, I find, to look at a match and be like, yeah, this is bad. Because I've seen bad matches. I promise you, new coming wrestling fan, bad matches nowadays are few and far between. You go through, you watch some stuff from the 80s and into the 90s, and you will see legitimately bad matches on your television. You will see bad matches from bad wrestlers. But they don't happen as often. And I think Scorpio Sky and Sammy, their match, while it was maybe, it wasn't great. Like I said, it's a match that happened. They tried their best. The work was there. It didn't connect. You know what I mean? It didn't gel together, and Sammy's the champion again. And I have an issue with that. And I've had an issue with the TNT title ever since Cody left. Because, look, whatever Cody says, Cody's out there, he's doing what he does best. He's being a pro wrestler, and he's, talking good stuff about his current employer while, subtly poo-pooing on Cody never felt bad about not being in the world title picture. This is an angle, okay? Like, at some point you have to understand and respect the work that they do. He was never, because he said this in interviews, right? As, I should have never been taken out of the title picture. Well, look, this was something you guys did. It was an angle. It could have been retconned at any situation, right? Like, people were expecting this to be for Cody to find a way to get back into the world title picture, right? Remember that one year, I think with the Face of the Revolution match, and I think Cody was in it, or people wanted Cody to be in it. Cody, all he has to do is win the Face of the Revolution, and he'll challenge for the world title, kind of thing. They can loop. If they can create the situation, they can uncreate it. They don't have to just instantly retcon it and pretend it never happened. If they give us an explanation, they walk us through a creative that explains why Cody is back into the world title picture, that would have worked. That was never a deal. But the thing here, Cody Fosterling, speaking of Cody's, nice to see you and welcome to the chat. Cody always said, it's like, I never wanted this title to be the secondary title. This, it's right up there. And that's why they gave it to him from the get-go. And it is still the best decision that AEW made in regards to the TNT title and its first champion, giving it to Cody, a legitimate top guy in the company, giving it to him to start it off, instant prestige. And everyone after that who has held the title has been elevated by that championship because Cody had been associated with it from the get-go, right? And he always pushed that narrative, and it was booked that way. That's the thing, because there's a difference between a worker working and telling us the title is as big as the world title. But if it's actually booked that way, then you really buy into it. We bought into Miro. We bought into to the Darby run. We bought into Brody Lee. These were all like, okay, these are big time champs. So when Sammy won it the first time, we were like, hot damn, good for him. Now they're hot potatoing it. And I would argue that Sammy doesn't have the sheen that he once had either. And I think the booking of the TNT title, since Cody is gone, has been shit. I don't think it's been good. And I think this is the kind of booking that will end up taking some of the shine away. And it's not going to be heel Sammy Guevara who's going to do it. First of all, I'm glad Sammy's a heel again. I didn't buy him as a babyface. I didn't like him. I didn't think it worked. But now it feels like a mid-card title. Now it feels like a mid-card title. You know what I mean? It doesn't feel like it once did. And that's entirely on AEW booking since Cody Rhodes is gone. I think what they need to do is they need to put it on someone big. They need to put it on a name that you would say, no, this is a world title guy. Someone credible that you will not perceive as someone whose status has been reduced, but more like, this is someone who's taking this belt and raising its value, a la John Cena in the U.S. title. Put it on a guy like Danielson. Honestly, if they weren't angling towards Page and Punk, I'd say slap it on old CM. That's his MO, right? That's what he wants to do. He wants to elevate everything. He wants to elevate people. He wants to make things better. There's something right there. You put the TNT title on CM Punk, it feels important again. Same thing with Bryan Danielson. Same thing. I would even argue, you pull Miro out, you have him come in, you have him destroy. Have Miro come in a match. Have Sammy do an open challenge, and it's Miro that answers it. Sammy's shit in his pants, and Miro comes in, and he destroys Sammy, right? Like, he murders the kid. Well, not literally. But, have him he's tossed around. He breaks him. There's blood. Ties at ringside. She's crying. A 5-minute match. Miro just steamrolls him. A former champion, a guy that everyone perceived as a credible, big-time threat, as a credible champion on top of that. Comes in, steamrolls the kid, instant return to form. It's just me. Ring of Honor World Title match. Jonathan Gresham successfully retained his title against Dalton Castle. Now, here is this look. Welcome, one and all of you who just discovered Dalton Castle, welcome to the fold. You're more than welcome to join us in fawning over the guy. Dalton Castle cut a legend of a pre-tape promo before this match. I have written it down. I will read it back to you verbatim. This is how much I love this goddamn promo he cut with his sunglasses, his pleather coat. Listen, here we go. Quote, Dalton Castle. Quote, I am Sully Sullenberg and you, Jonathan Gresham, are a goose in my engine trying to bring me down. And I'm gonna land this bitch in the river and you're going to be used to stuff a duvet. My God. And his delivery, his execution. A smack. Now, if you're just coming into the fold for Dalton Castle, I'm sure you enjoyed the match as well. It was a very fun match. I would highly suggest seeking out some of his matches from his Ring of Honor World Championship reign when his back had not completely thrown him off, because he has back issues now that you can feel sort of hold him back a little bit. This guy's amazing, and he's a showman, and he has charisma. Like, this is a guy who jumped right out at you on TV. I was like, look at this guy. And I was so happy for him. So incredibly, incredibly happy for him. I enjoyed this match. I'd say it was my match of the night. I thought it was a lot of fun. People involved, the history, so on and so forth. I thought it was pretty dope. After the match, Jay Lethal, Sanjay Dutt, and Satnam Singh. Who? Satnam Singh? Who? Okay. They all come out, and Satnam's tossing people around. Now, the near unanimous appreciation for Satnam Singh, who was remarkable. And I saw he looks 100 times better than he did on Dynamite. So much more convincing, and I agree. He looked much more. He looked much more comfortable in what he was doing. But what was he doing? Well, he was reacting to offense. You know, he wasn't pulling any moves. He wasn't like that awkward as hell clothesline that he threw on Joe was a move he threw. Here, he's got like the boys, you know, and they come at him and he just, whatever, he grabs them and he tosses them, right? And then he grabs Dalton Castle and he throws Dalton Castle into the ring steps. Like, these are all people that are bumping for him. And then he's in the ring with Jonathan Gresham and he's ramming his head into, like, these are not like, these are not amazing feats of athletic ability that he's doing. He's doing big man stuff, which is fine. That's what, like, if anything, that's what he should do. Respect. That's what he should be doing. But, you know, in the sense that what they had him do made Satnam Singh look better, yes, 100%, I agree. But I am still not going to sit here and listen to anyone tell me Satnam Singh looks so much better. Look at all the stuff he did. He reacted. That reaction wrestler, just people bouncing off of him and bumping because of the stuff that he did. And he did, like, his physical involvement was still very limited. And we have to call it as it is. Samoa Joe comes to the rescue of Jonathan Gresham with a steel pipe and chases everyone away. Because I too would fear Samoa Joe with a steel pipe. I would fear Samoa Joe with an aluminum umbrella. I would fear Samoa Joe with a stack of napkins. I don't know what Samoa Joe is coming after me, and he's got like a thick stack of napkins, and his eyes are fixated on me, and he's coming at me like this, you know how with the towel and everything and the napkins, and I'm like, I'm hitting the bricks. I'm taking a powder. Whew. I'm not gonna stick around to see what he's gonna do with the napkins, because it's Samoa Joe. And then we had the AEW World Women's Title match. Thunder Rosa successfully defended against Nyla Rose in a good little match. It was fine. I like both of these women. They work well together. Nyla Rose is a wrestler. I think at some point I'm going to have to stop saying the same damn thing about Nyla Rose over and over again. But she is absolutely one of the most improved wrestlers in such a short amount of time within these past 3 years that AEW has been active. She is unquestionably the wrestler who has grown the most, improved the most on every level. Every level. From her in-ring to her promos. She's a star, man. She's a star for this division. Oh, and I said we'd talk about the women's division, right? Well, here we are. Let's go. Let's talk about the AEW women's division. It's been a while. Because I could talk about it every week if I wanted to. But sometimes I'm like, look, I'm going to give some room to breathe. I want to see how things are going. I don't want to necessarily jump to reactionary conclusions and just always be like prime and like, let's go, hey, this and that, this bullshit. And so I want to drag this out a bit. Because I'm still waiting for the AEW women's division to be really remarkable. And we don't have it yet. And it's insane that we don't. And again, this is an expectation that AEW committed to themselves when they were starting up, when you had Brandy Rhodes taking the podium at the press conferences and saying, we're going to have the best women's division, the most diverse, whatever, We're not there. And why are we not there? How can we not have in AEW a women's division that people fawn over universally? Why do we not have that yet? 3 years in, why are we still at one women's match per show? Why is it that? Why is it when 2 matches appear, people celebrate when that should be a norm? I mean, and parentheses, I don't care what the others are doing. I'm focusing on AEW, a promotion that I like, that I think is very close to everything I like in wrestling, except the women's division. And that criticism, and I know, look, maybe there's some of you right now who are listening and they're like, skip. Now hang on. Because I'm going to talk about some things that maybe we don't talk about in regards to how the division is put together. Look, because the arguments are still there. Short matches, 1 match, 1/4 hour for the women, if we're being honest. Because they sort of cram all that shit on Dynamite in one, right? Oh, but they're on Rampage. You have a one women's match per card. 1 women's match on the pay-per-view. Oh, but on the buy-in, I'm talking the pay-per-view. I'm talking when people start shelling out their money. The moment you get in the cab and the driver hits the meter. That's the pay-per-view. That's when the ride starts. You might get in the cab and start talking to the driver, and you're like, hey, this guy's pretty cool. I want to go to this place. Oh, where is that? And then you sort of, you open up your Google Maps, and you're like, oh, it's over here. You can take this street, fine. That's not the cab ride. The cab ride starts when you start paying for it. The pay-per-view starts when you pay for it. I talk about how WWE has no mid-card, right? You've heard me talk about this oftentimes. Where you're just cycling challengers for the champions, right? Without any real rhyme or reason. There's, now it's your turn. Here comes Liv Morgan. Bloop. Liv Morgan lost like her past 8 matches. Doesn't matter, it's her turn. Barely see her. All of a sudden, she's a challenger. Same thing here. And this should not be happening. You should not. If AEW's biggest strength is to have a healthy mid-card for the dudes, it is the complete opposite for the women. We're going to focus on 1 or 2, and that'll be that. And then when they start focusing on some of them, it's not women who will bring it to the table. I am sorry. I have not seen any reports. I'm not saying that. I'm not giving you any spoilers. I don't read Rampage spoilers. So I don't know what happened, but I am very, very, very apprehensive at this Jade Cargill Marina Shafir match that is happening on Rampage. Because for some wild reason, it has been determined that Marina Shafir is the next challenger. Marina Shafir, who had her first match on Dynamite last week, and it stunk. So this is exactly having booking being forced down your throat. It's like, no, it's her turn. She's the one doing it. And you're like, there's nothing credible about this. There's nothing good. Nothing good is going to come out of this. And Marina Shafir, bless her, if she can't take care of a rookie, I've been all over this last week, but if she can't take care of a rookie like Sky Blue, what the hell is she going to do with Jade? Jade is even more of a rookie than Sky Blue is. It's a recipe for disaster, and that's on the booking. Now, what do you do then? What do you do? And this is also something that I've been saying, God almighty, from the first few months of AEW. If you want your women's division to feel important, you have to feature it like it's important. You put it on Dynamite. You give it the match on Rampage, but it's not, because I see all the arguments, everyone telling me constantly, yeah, but on Rampage, yeah, but they're on Dark, they're building on Dark. And I don't watch Dark. I don't. And when you look at the YouTube views and you look at the ratings, most people don't watch Dark or Dark Elevation either. They're fun distractions. But this is not where I get to learn about the women. This is not where I get to feel that the women are important in the show. If you don't put someone on your flagship, they will never feel important. Now, so how do you do that? So that's a core problem, right? But here's something that we don't talk about enough. Here's something that, because occasionally AEW is going to throw us a bone. It's going to be, here's the women's tournament, and then we're going to get, all these women's matches, and it's, okay. And, we were very, very excited with the last tournament they pulled, because they started building stories, all these side stories, but, the only one that really resonated and came out of all of that was Shida and Deeb, and people have trouble with Shida and Deeb still being a thing. I don't. Give us some long-term legendary feuds. Come on. You think Dusty Rhodes and Ric Flair only wrestled once or twice? Like, get the fuck out, kind of thing. I much prefer focusing on, on top women like this who I know will deliver high quality matches than fucking Jade and Marina Shafir. We're circling back here. If you don't have a mid card for the women, and if you're not featuring multiple wrestlers per week from the women's division on your flagship, on the main show, the mothership, the one that people tune into, the one that everyone crows about when you hit the demo, when the demo's high, when you hit 1 million viewers, that one, the one that is important, the one that is the center of everything. If you don't put them there, how are they going to feel important? But on top of this, and here's, I think, is where the issue is. I think the AEW women's division is top heavy. Lots of stars, like real, legitimate stars. Britt, Tony Storm, Ruby Soho, Statlander. Who am I forgetting? Because I know I'm forgetting, for some reason. Nyla Rose, Thunder Rosa. Just to name those. Aew Njpw, she's a former world champion. Deeb is up there too. You need, then let's say like this is your upper crust, right? These are all women that you could build your division around, right? I don't think there's anyone here that'd be like, these are all stars, and they're all perceived as stars, and they all work like stars. So what do you do? And Jade, of course, Jade in there. Absolutely Jade. Now, because she's not treated as a mid-card act, she's not treated as a jabron, she's treated as a star. Then you have the lower crust. You have this lower, the lanes, right? And you have the lower lane where you have the Julia Harts and the Sky Blues and the Bunny and Penelope Ford, and who are all under there, but you don't have this area between the two where you have very talented wrestlers who can work with the up and comers, the let's call it the undercard, the prelim people, or they can work with the top talent to make them look good. And the dudes have that. They've got, Max Caster, Anthony Bowen, Matt Sydal. Don't kid yourselves. That's why Matt Sydal is in AEW, right? They pull up dudes like Jay Lethal for a while. That's what he was doing, having great matches with top talent to making them look great. Where is this crust of wrestlers who are, lack of a better word, plumbers, right? People whose role in the company is to make the stars look like stars, then have some great mid-card stuff and, get some wins over the lower tier people and help elevate the lower tiers when they start getting steam and they're like, hey, you know what? We're going to start putting this person over. We're going to give this person a push. AEW doesn't have that for their women. They don't. There's this weird discrepancy where it's like they're only top women or really green. So it goes deeper than give us more than one women's match a week. Let's talk about Dynamite. CM Punk defeated Dustin Rhodes to open up the show. Still like this Dynamite format where it starts off and you get two matches. Like, I like it. Dialing back on the promos, the stuff. I like this stuff. So CM Punk defeats Dustin Rhodes. I know this was a match a lot of people were looking forward to. I like this quite a bit. Good limb work. Solid style by both. You get your spots. You get Dustin hitting a code red. There's an extended figure 4 spot between the two, which is pretty cool. We do a Dusty Rhodes callback. CM Punk tries to do the lift into the GTS, but they've been working each other's limbs. So, he can't quite get it. So instead, what does he do? He does a sit-down pin. Now, some people had pointed this out. I can't take credit for this. I wish I could, but I'm not this clever. Do you know who has been using this type of sit-down pin? Who used it throughout a good portion of 2021? Kazuchika Okada. Doing exactly that throughout the G1. Helped him get through preliminary rounds. Well, preliminary rounds, not rounds, but preliminary opponents, let's say, in the G1. He didn't spend his G1 rainmakering everyone. No. He was sort of saving that for the big stuff. No, Okada had developed this thing where he's, clutch the legs, sit down, 1, 2, 3. And I'm like, oh. So I see CM Punk doing this. Now, if we're doubling back to when we were talking about the AEW New Japan show from earlier on, and we were talking about, it has to be Omega Okada, right? I've seen circulate rumored main event being CM Punk and Kazuchika Okada. Besides, CM Punk, few months ago, tweeted out to Kazuchika Okada, come and find me, here's my address. And the address he supplied in the tweet was the address of the United Center. I honestly think in the year of our Lord 2022, there is no bigger match that you can pull out of AEW and New Japan than Kazuchika Okada versus CM Punk. And CM Punk, this is the kind of shit he's into. Dropping little breadcrumbs like this. This is the kind of shit that we're going to look back on and be like, holy hell, he had been telling us, like in April, that he was going to fight Okada. I'm there for that. Are you kidding me? Okada's going to get the best. Okada is absolutely going to get the best out of CM Punk. And I know a lot of people, like in the chat, they're like, Kenta, because of the GTS stuff, right? But it's weird to say, but it's below CM Punk. It's not that great a match. It's not that captivating. And look, Kenta he's not the Kenta. He's not 2007 Kenta, breaking everyone's jaws over and over again. Like, he's not that anymore. But Okada in his prime. CM Punk, career revival, arguably the biggest star in AEW right now. In the midst of a career revival, having great matches, showing that he still can go. You put him in a match with Kazuchika Okada, and he is going to go all out. He's going to do everything in his power to make this a legendary match. Anything else, I think, is a waste of CM. Look, Tanahashi, maybe. Like, it kind of makes sense. Two vets. But I think your star match, your star-making match, your star power match, not star-making, but your star power match, it's Kazuchika Okada versus CM Punk. Look, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what the match is going to be. Because Forbidden Door, the pay-per-view, is going to sell out on day one. And they won't have announced a single match for it. And by the way, anyone who believes that this show is not going to sell out on the first day is deluded. And if they are trying to convince you of the opposite, you just turn your head and walk away and let them live in the little fantasy land where goblins and pixies fix them nice steak dinners. Big T, nice to see you. Welcome to the chat. Anyway, outside of all of that, Hangman Page showed up after the match to stare down CM Punk. I mean, this was something that we were anticipating, right? We were seeing this one coming. Adam Page and what's his face, CM Punk. That's what's coming up for Double or Nothing. Are people worried that Double or Nothing is going to suffer? Here's another thing. This is something else. Anyone who's telling you that Double or Nothing is going to suffer because of the build to AEW New Japan or vice versa, anyone who's, again, they're deluded, and if they're telling you that, you should just turn your head and walk away and leave them to their Fantasyland steak dinner. Wardlow shows up. He gets confronted by security, led by Smart Mark Sterling. He lays down the law. He says that Wardlow needs to be accompanied by security throughout the building. Plus, he has to be handcuffed. And I thought this was a gimmick they were setting up for the match, but it turns out no. Let's talk about the match. We'll go through the Wardlow thing. It's not exactly in sequence, but we'll get it done. Wardlow then has, a little later on in the evening, has his match against the Butcher. He wins. We got MJF and Sean Spears who are up in a skybox eating popcorn. I think this was fine. They brawled on the floor, you know. Butcher works the back, but Wardlow hits the powerbomb, send fitting for the win. Like it was fine, you know. But didn't hit the notes like last week's storyline in the angle, you know, with Wardlow showing up in the week before. But it was fine. Don't get me, it's fine. Just, and you know what? Like, this is kind of the story of this entire Dynamite, right? It's just like flat. Nothing bad. Just like things are happening, and I'm like, I feel like there's missing a little spark, a little life, a little something. Later on, still continuing the Wardlow stuff, MJF is disappointed that the Butcher didn't get the job done, but he hires Jake Roberts to get his man, Lance Archer, to fight Wardlow next. And this is going to be a test for Wardlow, okay? This is going to be a test because as it stands right now, Wardlow has had mostly, I think his longest match has been, the multi-man at Revolution, right? The Sonic Ring match. He's obviously not going to squash Lance Archer, and he's probably going to have to give a lot of offense to Lance Archer as well. So I'm excited to see Wardlow in a longer one-on-one match. It's going to be very telling as to what the next step for Wardlow is going to be. And I'm sure he feels the pressure. There's going to be a lot of eyes latched on to this match just to see, all right, now can the boy go, right? I think this is fair. Because it's his last really long singles match. Was it he and Cody in the cage? Was that the last one? I think so. So he wasn't, he wasn't bad, again, by no stretch of the imagination, but, still very young and, it'll be good to see how far he's come. I'm very interested in this match. It's a good pairing, too. Good, credible opponent for Wardlow, right? Let's talk about Yuta's new gear. as the Blackpool Combat Club fought as a trio against Brock Anderson, Dante Martin, and Lee Moriarty. Lee Moriarty, the hometown hero that night. I really enjoyed this in a very like overwhelmingly, overwhelming. Yeah, the top guys overwhelming the haphazardly put together team. I dug this. I thought it was fun. And these are all guys that I like. All the guys in this match. There's no one here where I'm like, I like Brock Anderson. I love Lee. I like Dante Martin. Blackpool Combat Club, forget about it. Love them. Yuta's gear, I thought it was great. All in white with the, reminiscent of. And I like how he's leaning into this aggressive thing, right? Lee Moriarty in this match gets a super hot tag, of course. It's his hometown. In a border city stretch, Danielson escapes out of it with a trap suplex, which was great. And I love the visual of all three members of the BCC just wailing on guys like they're all in the ring. You got Moxley and Yuta doing the elbows and Danielson doing the head stomp. I love that visual. I hope they do that every fucking match they're together. Paradigm shift for the win. I thought this was a lot of fun. It's right up my alley. I really like how Yuta is developing here, becoming a lot more aggressive. And I also, here's something else that I like about this trio. It's like they were saying from the start, we're united because we like to hurt people, because we like to fight. They're not friends. They're not chums. They're not buddies. They don't come around and hang out. They don't hug, and high five each other throughout the match. No. They all come out to their own theme. They all congregate in the ring and they mesh as a destructive force. And then at the end, it's like, all right, everyone, let's raise our arms and let's just go back. Like, it's really united by combat. It's not about friendships. It's about coming together to just kick ass. And I love it. How long have I been telling you that this is the best thing on AEW? How long? Since the whole Mox Danielson thing started. And it's still great. Adam Cole and the Undisputed Elite. We're all hanging out backstage. They're pouty. They're all dressed in black. They're all very sad boys. For some reason. No, we know why. Kyle O'Reilly tells us why everyone's sad. It's because everyone's losing matches. But it's going to stop tonight because Kyle O'Reilly's going to win his match. And then Adam Cole sets up a 10-man tag for next week. All right. Like, give me faction warfare. I like this stuff. Then we have the announcement for that happened. Tony Khan comes out for it. Well, we have Tony Schiavone, who brings out Tony Khan, who brings out President Obari of New Japan. And but it's Adam Cole who scoops Tony Khan out of the announcement. These leaks, Tony. You got all these leakers. Run a tight ship, man. Adam Cole also says that he's having his own Owen tournament qualifier match on Rampage against Tomohiro Ishii. Of course, we know who's winning. That's fine. And then Jay White comes out and he says that all this AEW New Japan stuff is not about New Japan. It's not about AEW. It's about the Undisputed Elite and the Bullet Club because it's still their era. Now, you will recall, astute listeners of the Mr. Warren Hayes show, a few weeks ago, I was reading a report that was brought to us by the people at Voices of Wrestling in regards to the continuation of the Bullet Club story, or what's the word I'm looking for? Civil war or split, whatever you want to call it. But all, with the Tongaloa stuff. And I talked about a few weeks ago that this was going to spill into other promotions. That was the report. Well, that was going to continue in other promotions. Well, look at what we got here. And I think it's interesting that that Jay White is, drawing a line between Bullet Club and, the Undisputed Elite. He says, it's still our era. Like, he still backhandedly recognizes that these guys are, we're chums, but we're not exactly all Bullet Club. So that's an interesting little wrinkle. That'll be interesting to see how that develops for the main Forbidden Door show. Jade Cargill and her pals Kiera Hogan and Red Velvet are backstage, as well as Mark Sterling. Jade says she's not afraid of Marina Shafir. Something bitch. something bitch. We're getting Eddie Kingston versus Daniel Garcia next week in Buffalo, which of course is significant because that is Daniel Garcia's hometown. Is Eddie Kingston going to be local heel Eddie Kingston for the occasion here? I like the local heel stuff. Let's see what happens. Owen Hart Foundation men's tournament qualifying match was next. Kyle O'Reilly defeated Jungle Boy, which I think a surprise. I think this is the most shocking result so far. Look, we got angry, focused, serious Kyle O'Reilly, and that's what you get, Jungle Boy. You eat a loss when you're facing, all business Kyle O'Reilly. That should be his nickname. All business Kyle O'Reilly. Because that's what he said during the a little earlier on, right? It was like, look, this all changes tonight. We got to stop losing. Let's get back into the swing of things, right? But you know what? Here, the match had, grappling. It was technical, and, it was some good stuff by Kyle O'Reilly. But I was looking at the match and I was like, look, this is a demo of pro wrestling, but it lacked life. It lacked spark. I know that's an assessment that's been going around. A lot of reviewers saying that it felt lifeless, but it did. It felt like here are two guys that are going to show you what professional wrestling is, but didn't inject that, the story of the match, the drama of the match. It just went, because I was looking at them work, and I was like, why is it not connecting? Because they're working hard. This is good, but it's not connecting with me emotionally. They're not coming for me. It felt very, okay, now we're doing this series of moves. It was like a demo. O'Reilly hits the brainbuster and the diving knee for the win. I want you to notice something, because this is not something you hear all that much in regards to Kyle O'Reilly, but Excalibur, after the match, was really putting over the fact that Kyle O'Reilly is this proud Canadian one, and he got interrupted. I don't know who interrupted him, but he was like, but this proud Canadian, driving home the fact that he's a Canadian, which he is, from Vancouver or British Columbia. Maybe not Vancouver. He's from British Columbia. That's like saying, oh, you're from Toronto. No, I'm from Ontario. Not everyone from Ontario is from Toronto, kind of thing. But circling, just to make sure I don't lose my train of thought here, Kyle O'Reilly being put over as a Canadian, whereas the Owen Hart is very much Canadian. So I don't know if this is like something that we might see picked up on moving forwards. Like Kyle O'Reilly's a Canadian, and maybe this might be a little sauce here to add on to it. I don't know. I found it interesting that they're bringing out his nationality in this context, whereas they never mention it. Hook defeated Anthony Henry. Anthony Henry is one of these guys I was talking about. You know, you sign him, and he's a good mid-tier guy that'll make the top guys look great and will help elevate the up-and-comers, the greener pastures. I thought he was a very good opponent for Hook. Fine match, but again, just flat. Danhausen again tries to curse Hook, but Hook is completely impervious to the curse. Gets a Taz mission for the win. Danhausen then comes to the ring and outright challenges Hook. The crowd goes nuts. Do you save this for the pay-per-view? I think you do at this point. By looking at these crowd reactions, I ain't giving this one on TV. Nice little, breather of a match, a little distraction, a cool down. Nice little few comedy spots. Doesn't have to be very long. I think you keep that for Double or Nothing there, TK. Tony Nese is also on the outside, and that's probably what they're gonna go with, right? Maybe. I don't know. Tony Nese, though. See, Tony Nese is exactly a guy like I'm talking to you guys about. A guy who will work with the top, make them look good, take losses, while helping the new guys, get into Tony Nese is a perfect candidate for that. Why aren't they doing it for the women? Anyway, we already had that rant. Sammy Guevara. Before that, you had Frankie Kazarian, who's backstage about to challenge Sammy Guevara for the TNT title. When Scorpio Sky comes in, he says, "Look, brother, you've always had my back. Have my back here. Let me challenge Sammy." And Kazarian's like, "Okay," and everyone's a friend. So, excuse me. Pardon me. So so Sammy is in the ring with Tai Conchi, and he says, look, the minute I saw the coat Sammy was wearing, I was like, he's a heel. That's a heel coat. With the big furry neck. I was like, no, that's a heel coat. Sammy's officially a heel. Well, they confirmed it in this promo. If I feel like I'm top of the world with the love of my life in the ring, and for all of you who turned on us, be mad. Oh, brother. Now, out come the Men of the Year and Dan Lambert. And we witnessed a double turn, folks. We got a double turn right before our eyes. Scorpio Sky sort of goes after Sammy, accusing him of turning his back on everyone who supported him. Ethan Page gets a fiery babyface promo in there. Says not a single person paid a ticket to come see Sammy Guevara talk on the mic. And then Dan Lambert cuts a babyface promo saying that Sammy likes to act like a douchebag in high school who can't take his tongue out of his girlfriend's mouth. I'm like, I kept telling you guys. Dan Lambert, man. And look at him now. You were all sitting there You were all sitting there on your couches or wherever, in your bed, wherever you watch AEW, your TV, your computer monitors, your phones. You were sitting there and you were going, Dan Lambert is right. He is a douchebag who can't keep his tongue out of his girlfriend's mouth. That's exactly what he is. He acts like he's in fucking high school. Tell me he's wrong. Dan Lambert. What if Dan Lambert was right all along? And you just didn't want to see it. Because he was saying mean things about your favorites. What if Dan Lambert was right all along? I don't. Sammy says that he'll give Scorpio Sky a rematch if first we get a mixed tag match. Basically, Ty and Sammy versus Scorpio Sky and Paige Van Zandt, who is also going to end up being a babyface. Look, what's the opposite? What is the flip side of this? What are we going to do? What's the opposite? Keep shoving it down our throats? No, Sammy's a babyface. No, Sammy's a babyface. This is the thing. I don't know. This doesn't feel planned. It doesn't feel like this was the plan. I think they really were invested in a Sammy Guevara babyface turn, but their antics and their posting shit on social media backfired. Translated into the live crowds, Tony Khan is like, well, we got to do something because you can't be a babyface anymore, pal. Got a promo from the House of Black, and our next Owen Hart Foundation Women's Tournament qualifying match, where Dr. Britt Baker, DMD, defeated Danielle Camella, formerly known as Vanessa Bourne, in NXT. Of course, Britt gets the homecoming queen reaction from the crowd, hometown. She's accompanied to the ring by Najee Harris and Pat Fryermuth, two football players from the Pittsburgh Steelers. That I'm sure I would have been like, oh, that's pretty sweet if I followed the NFL. And then after that, she cuts a promo, not her best promo. She sounded really winded and catching her breath. It wasn't her best promo. But she says, the last few weeks, it's clear that the women's division is a disaster without me. She calls out Ruby Soho, Toni Storm, and Jade Cargill. Make a note of this, folks. Okay, this is significant. But I would not call this Britt Baker's best work. Absolutely not. That's why I don't care, man. You know what, Danielle? I feel like I feel like Danielle Camella was a little on and off, because at some point in the where I'm watching this along with the folks in the Discord, I was like, wow, Camella's come a long way, because she was hitting some offense, and then as I'm typing that, she sort of flubs a couple of things, and I'm like, well, no, there you go. But I still think she's improved quite a bit. Finally, we get the main event, the coffin match. Darby Allin defeating Andrade El Idolo, bringing this feud to a conclusion. And again, this was a match. It had a couple of peaks, but overall, a match that I'm like, okay, all right. Like, nothing wrong with it, but not as hot as I would have expected, or as I usually get. When I say I mean we, by the main events on Dynamite. Sting doing the Sting mask gimmick again, which always, it still makes me pop. I still think it's great. It's still one of the great treasures of professional wrestling. He helps fights off the Andrade family office as they start swarming over Darby. They're in the audience. Does Sting know that he's never been in ECW and that he doesn't have to do ECW things? Does he know that? Because he's diving off a balcony here again. Andrade looks strong. Darby quick and fearless. Darby does a suicide dive that puts he and Andrade into the coffin. The coffin, the lid, by the way, has thumbtacks on the inside, you know. Darby gets out while Andrade is still in the coffin, and he slams the lid onto Andrade's legs, but Jose, the assistant, comes running down. He tears off his shirt. He goes for a powerbomb, but instead he gets body dropped onto the tacks, onto the door with the tacks. Then Darby closes the lid shut and lies on top of it. He wins. Hey, you know. It's fine. The Hardys show up after to do some delete things. This is where we're heading. That was AEW Dynamite. Like I said, just a very one note. Very, very one note. Thank you all, by the way, for still being here. I appreciate it. This is, look, really quickly, I'm going to touch on Windy City Riot, New Japan Windy City Riot that happened this weekend. I'm not going to break down the whole card. I want to focus on three particular matches. I'll get it out. That I thought were fun and fun to great. Let's just go. Is the undercard? I enjoyed the undercard. I especially enjoyed the openweight title match. I thought Tom Lawler and Yuji Nagata had a good one. Everything connected. Like it was fine. The undercard did what it had to do. Happy to see Chris Dickinson, starting to hit his matches in New Japan as well. That's all good. The upper crust of these matches here, we had the US of J challenge from Jay White, his open challenge that was accepted by Shota Umino, which was fantastic. What a great surprise. Shota Shooter Umino, who was, of course, who rose to fame as being John Moxley's young lion when Moxley did his G1 tour already, 2019 at this point. Everyone saw this connection, just some legendary stuff, calling Shooter like his, he gave Shooter the nickname, and said, oh, this is, and everyone's saying, oh, it's John Moxley's adopted son. And they even made that connection where Jay White is in the ring and he's waiting for his challenger, and it cuts to tape. You see John Moxley come up to someone that you don't see on screen and says something like, okay, kid, this is on you, go get him. And then the person he was talking to walks into view, and it was Shooter, who comes out and he has a Shooter jacket. Look, this is John Moxley's greatest gift to this kid. I thought this match was really dope. Jay White's still not, Jay White still not wanting to give him the light of day, still taunting him, still treating him like a young lion, right? But Shota is, he's not that anymore. And it shows in his offense, and it shows what Jay White needed to do to put him away. Just some great stuff. Some suplexes. Look, it's a Blade Runner that puts it away. Fun match. I enjoyed that. Which led us into Tomohiro Ishii versus Minoru Suzuki. Now, this is what you expect out of these two here. But they decided to break it up, and not to break it up, to lift it up. To turn it up a notch is what I'm trying to say. This was violent. This is one of Ishii's and Suzuki's best confrontations. Like when we talk about war of attrition, this is it. When we talk about two guys just leaving everything in the ring, this is it. Just hitting, slapping each other as hard as they could. Physical as fuck. It's just everything you love out of a strong style New Japan match. The near falls, the hard hits, the drama. The drama when Suzuki is trying to lock in the Gotch pile driver. But Ishii's struggling and he's resisting the whole way. The brain buster finally lands. You're like, oh, my God, what a match. I'm not doing it proper. I'm doing it a disservice. This match was amazing. But it's just like, it's so simple in its execution, but so utterly compelling. Seek this match out. Drop what you're doing. Go see it. It's a match of the year for me. It's right on up there. Then we got Jon Moxley versus Will Ospreay, which was wild. Wild. Super interesting to see Will Ospreay stay true to himself, but wrestle another kind of match. He wrestled Jon Moxley's match. And he did it. Look, again, it's like I say often. Will Ospreay will come with with a nice, healthy helping of detractors for numerous reasons. But it's hard to deny that this guy is not one of the absolute best in the world. They're all like, this one spills out to the floor very early and very violently. Mox he tosses Will Ospreay over the table. And early on, Mox is bleeding. He goes after Ospreay, starts biting him. Ospreay fights back with some Kawada kicks. And there's a German by Mox. Ospreay goes for the pip cheerio. It's countered by a forearm. There's an Os cutter from the apron to the floor on Moxley, which was outstanding. Ospreay grabs Moxley, tosses him over the guardrail, lays him out on a table. Ospreay goes back to the ring, climbs the post, flies off with an elbow drop over the guardrail through the table. Jesus Christ! Mox hits a Death Rider. Ospreay pops up and he elbows Mox right in the face. They lariat each other until they collapse. There's a pile driver by Mox. He runs the ropes. Ospreay counters with a Liger bomb. The hell's going on? There's a Nos cutter. A curb stomp by Mox. And holy shit, did Ospreay sell it fantastically. Little nod to Seth Rollins there. Rip the Shield. Standing Spanish Fly by Will Ospreay. Another Death Rider. And a high-angle Death Rider on top of that. Goes for the cover. Ospreay kicks out, but the ref doesn't see it. Calls the 3. Meanwhile, Moxley feels that Ospreay kicks out, so he rolls over and gets him into a bulldog choke. Ospreay's tapping, but the referee's like, no, I counted the pin. So they're continuing the angle where New Japan referees are screwing Will Ospreay. And they did it quite well here. Like, it looked like a botch. It looked like a referee botch. But it's clearly the angle. That's what Ospreay's been contending since his match with Zack Sabre Jr. at the New Japan Cup. The refs are out to get me. New Japan, conspiracy. I loved it. Fantastic match. Also, another match you should seek out. It's a good card. It's a fun wrestling card from top to bottom. And after the match, Will Ospreay is like, look, Hiroshi Tanahashi, you've been ducking me for 3 years. You won't be able to duck me anymore. And he challenged him for the show at in Washington, D.C., Capital Crimes, Capital Punishment, Capital, right? Capital something. Capital Crushers. And very quickly, just to wrap this up on this note, on a good note, a positive note, Kushida's gone from WWE. The news was broke by Fightful. They said that his deal with the company had expired. He's in the alumni section. And free as a bird. I mean, here's another, like, look. Here's the thing. Kushida being back out in the wild is fantastic. I think it's good. I sincerely believe that Kushida went to WWE with the best of intentions, where he's like, look, I want to travel elsewhere. I've seen up and down Japan, right? Let's go to WWE. Let me see other places. Let me wrestle other people. Let me learn other styles. That's part of the New Japan dojo as well. That's why wrestlers go on excursion after the once they graduate, right? It's like they send them on as part of their graduation. Send them on excursion, you go to Mexico, you go to England, wherever, and you pick up some stuff to come back to Japan and be a more rounded wrestler kind of thing, right? So I'm convinced that this was his plan. It was like, look, we're gonna go. We're just gonna go. I'm gonna try some stuff out. And, NXT 2.0 happens, and look, they barely knew what to do him when it was black and gold. What room was there for Kushida other than the comedy role, right? Long storied tradition of WWE not knowing what to do with their Japanese talent, not understanding the appeal of Japanese wrestlers, and feeling that they have to shoehorn them into these personas or weird angles or whatever to try and get them over. And somehow it always ends up to be like this weird comedy bullshit. Look at Akira Tozawa. I mean, don't get me started on Shinsuke Nakamura. No, but he's contending for the title. That's not a push. It's not a push. They haven't known what to. They didn't know what to do with Shinsuke Nakamura the minute he was done with his feud against AJ Styles. No clue what to do with him. So Kushida back out there. Apparently he's his compete. Seems to me I read that he would be available back towards the end of June If so, that means he would miss the Best of Super Juniors. I know a lot of people say, oh, put him in the G1, but the G1 is for heavyweights. Unless Kushida wants to bulk up for that. You know? I'm excited that he's back out there. You know what? My selfish fan thing would be like, look, Kushida, stick around the US a little longer. Have yourself a nice little indie run. Go fight some of the kids on the indies around here. You are going to be treated like a god. He would be. Go fight Alex Shelley for us. Get a match in Beyond. And go fight Alex Shelley for us. That'd be nice. Do it for us. But I mean, like I said, I'm being very, very selfish. Whatever the next step is for Kushida, back to being all caps, I'm okay with. I think it's good news. A talent that WWE underappreciated and undervalued because they don't know what to do with Japanese wrestlers. They really don't. But what about Asuka? There's always an exception. There's always an exception. There's always an exception. And on that note, we're going to wrap up the weekly wrestling inspection. Well, not only are we going to wrap up the weekly wrestling inspection, but we're going to wrap up this edition of the MrWarrenHayes Show. Hey, straight up, hang on, don't move. Thank you very much for tuning in today, for listening live, jumping in on demand, whether it be right here on youtube.com/MrWarrenHayes or on your favorite podcast application. I appreciate you. I appreciate you a great deal. And if you haven't already, leave a like. If you're listening to the video on demand, leave a comment. Talk to me. Let me know what's on your mind. What do you think about AEW these days? Where do you think Kushida should go? Drop a comment. Let us know. But as it stands right now, we're going to wrap things up. We're going to start going back down that dusty trail. And I am going to see you guys again next week. I'm already excited for it. And remember, wrestling is for wrestling fans. And it's supposed to be fun. And if you're having fun, don't let anyone tell you shouldn't be having fun. All right? All right, we're good. Thank you, everyone, once again. We'll see you next time.